So we got Naga played as the Way, with got cavalry bonuses and getting free villages for eco upgrades. Meanwhile, DEI is playing as Bohemians, who are known for their more defensive, slow push play, so it's not as strong on Arabia. But they do get the bonuses with the mining camp technologies. So see how the DEI plays as the Bohemians. Now, Naga is usually a bit more passive, so if the DEI can play a pretty strong game here on Arabia and force the Naga to be defensive, that'll be the key, I think. Naga bringing in the elephant, building the first lumber camp. Meanwhile, the DEI already brought down the elephant and is building the first lumber camp. And this is a deer Arabia, so we should see a good aggressive game. You're pushing from Naga. Bringing in the elephant for the DEI. So looks like both the guys are going for a 3 lumber camp, probably fleshing build. Pretty neck and neck so far. Maybe looks like Naga's economy is just slightly ahead, but I think the villagers for DE probably haven't dropped off from the elephant here. Yep, there we go. Alright, gold mine for Naga, as Naga is going up to feudal age at 20 villagers, 21 pop. And DEI is going up to feudal age at 22 pop, and also adding a mining camp. Barracks for Naga, barracks for the DEI. Got a scout chase here. The DEI is not fighting back, so Naga's probably going to win the scout war. Especially now with feudal age coming in. Alright, so Naga flees away from the TC. And DEI's scout is still passive. D's adding archer range and adding a few militia. So I'm wondering if we might This is really late for a Drush. The Naga's added in archer range. I'm kind of curious if maybe the DI was going for a Drush but didn't explore Naga. Looks like he found Naga. Alright, so going Man-at-Arms for DEAI, while Naga's going for archers, and DEAI is adding some archers as well. And here's the Man-at-Arms rush. Naga defending with archers. A scout coming in to help with for Naga. So far, the DI is only just scared away a couple of villagers from the lumber camp. Okay, finally got a couple hits on the archer. Yep, Man-at-Arms went down. And archer went down by the TC. So the TC is MVP for Naga in that set, in that attack. So the DI retreats. Naga's got fletching. So right now we got 4 archers plus a skirmisher for Naga. Meanwhile, 2 Men-at-Arms and 3 archers for the DEAI. And also with fewer upgrades. So the DI is behind. And doesn't seem to be going for Castle Age anytime soon. Fletching coming in for the DEAI. But if I'm kind of right, okay, there's 3 archers, but only 2 being trained at a time. Meanwhile, Naga's already at 7 archers, but not adding more. It looks like Naga decided to go up to Castle Age, so either DEI is going to need to do the same, or uses some units in attack, and looks like that's what's going to happen. Oh, at least I thought so. They're kind of all gathering up, but maybe they're just gathering in a group to be able to play defense here. But Naga's going up to Castle Age. Naga's adding a 2nd archery range. Adding a mining camp for stone. And the DEI might be going to attack, or maybe it's defending this pretty vulnerable lumber camp. So that'd be this lumber camp here would be the 4th lumber camp for the DEI. And looks like DE might be going to attack now. I wonder if Castle Age will cause the DI to go back, or if he'll continue to push. I don't think the DI has all of its military here right now. But the DI usually has superior micro to Naga. So that's, I think, something that offwo really added to the DI when he took it over. Along with like a bit of like We're not really seeing it in this match, but sometimes you'll see the DEAI kind of wall in with buildings in a ring. That's something else that offwo added from his AIs. Naga still has the effective KD here. We'll see if the scouts can kill off. The archers can kill the scout before any of them die. Looks like this guy just held on with 1 HP. Naga adding a second TC, while the DEI is on the way to Castle Age. So that was a decent attack from the DEI, but not enough to really hurt Naga. And with Naga's economy and its ability to boom, the DEI is going to need to be able to play aggressive here to take advantage of its military control. But you can't really do that at this point with Naga and Castle Age and having crossbows. So I think the DEI is going to need to be able to wait until Castle Age gets crossbow, Vodkin maybe, and then start another attack. Alright, DEI adding another barracks though. I'm curious what the DEI is adding here. Got 2 TCs that are being added. This one's off in the middle of nowhere, but this one's in a decent spot next to some trees. Alright, we got attack. Crossbows being added now. I feel like this attack is coming in too early. Should have waited until crossbow was finished, as well as Bodkin. Lost like 2 or 3 archers, I think 3 of them. So that really hurts. Naga's ahead on crossbow numbers. Yeah, it doesn't look like the DEI is pushing in deer for some reason. I don't know if the eliminating the deer pushing is something to make it more enjoyable for human players. I feel like it'd be kind of nice for the DEI to enable deer pushing against AI opponents, because I think that's something that's a bit more accepted inside the AI scripting community. Alright, so we got 21 crossbows for DE against 23 crossbows for Naga. And Naga's got 3 TCs. DEI is behind by 14 villagers. So we're gonna have to see the DEI be able to do some pushing here with these range units. One villager down. Seeing a bit of like flank to line rotation, line formation avoidance macro, which is nice to see. That's the big reason I think why we saw the DEI not lose any of his army while fleeing away. So DEI is 12 villagers behind. Ballistics being added for the DEI. I don't know if Naga's added ballistics yet. Yeah, no ballistics for Naga. So this could be pretty big in the crossbow battles here. Alright, so DEI got ballistics. If he can move and start shooting here. But it looks like the DEI is going to end up being passive here. And researching chemistry in Castle Age like it can. The DEI catching these crossbows out of position. Crossbow, Mangonel seeing some good mangonel dodging micro here from the DAI, but just in terms of overall numbers, it feels like the DI has more in this area. I mean, that Naga has more in this area. A late skirmisher is in for the DAI, so if you can add in a whole bunch of skirmishers against Naga's crossbows, that could be important. Because right now, Naga's more than 20 villagers ahead, and killed a whole bunch of villagers. I'm not sure where they were going. I wish I had seen that. Naga's killed 7 villagers, and the DAI has killed 2. Yeah, unfortunately the DI is targeting this ram with the ranged units instead of the crossbows. But we're seeing a whole bunch of skirmishers in this area. And looks like that's going to be enough to hold off Naga's attack here. But that's not going to hold the Naga from going to Imperial Age. Yeah, if Naga can get up to Imperial Age and use advantage of that timing, that could really put the DAI on the back foot here. So DAI is pushing against Naga here. Which I think is the smart move, and DI is actually the first to start researching Imperial Age. I'm not sure what happened to all of Naga's resources. Alright, so there's Imperial Age. Seems like these Mangonels are doing a good job of taking out DAI's skirmishers. They're not really firing back against the Mangonels like they should. They're attacking the rams instead. So 19 military for Naga against 16 for the DAI. The DAI is about 25 villagers behind Naga, but it's ahead on Imperial Age research by like 15 seconds. The DI really needs to switch to some melee units like some light cav. We see some Hagon cavalry from Naga. That should be pretty good against the skirmishers and taking them out. Alright, so we got some Hussite wagons, which are not actually the best against Naga's mangonels, or really the Hagon cavalry. So while they'll be really great against the skirmishers from Naga, they're not going to be the best units to push against Naga's army here. Monks will be good though. This Hagon cavalry is actually going to cause a lot of damage, I think. Yep, so we got pikemen being added by the DAI and going to elite Hussite wagon. Naga still 20 villages ahead, but both AIs are pretty much fully boomed. We've got the elite upgrade for the DAI, as well as pikemen pushing forward. So Naga is basically skirmishers and Hegel cavalry versus pikemen and Hussite wagons. And most of Naga's mangonels are in the back here. And we got Tiger cavalry coming from Naga now, which should be pretty good against the Hussite wagons. At least decent. The Hussite wagons actually have a pretty good amount of base pierce attack. But Naga's got Onager, and the Rams are also be decent against the Hussite wagons, with the slight bonus against siege weapons. Got Shanbei Raiders as well. So Naga is definitely transitioning into the like post-Imperial Age, like post-Imperial Age comp for the Wei. And the DI is trying to do the same for the Bohemians, but it seems like Naga's doing a better job of getting into that. Mostly because Naga's onagers keep these Hussite wagons from being able to mass. And they're just not very effective against a bunch of the Naga's units. Mingguang armor being researched. I think that adds the melee armor for the Wei cavalry units. And it looks like also the Shanbei Raiders. I'd have to look that up. But doesn't really help against halberdiers. Mangonel. Alright, the onager is down. Meanwhile, it looks like the DI tried to build a mining camp over here, which is obviously not going to work well. The DI is adding a new university. I'm not sure if that university was needed anymore. Naga's adding a TC in not a great position. So Naga's adding a whole bunch of different units. They got Light Cav, got Tiger Cavalry, the Shanbei Raiders. And DEI is continuing to add in more halberdiers, as well as continuing with the Hussite wagons. I think for this comp for Naga to work, it needs to continue mixing in all of its onagers, but I'm not really seeing any coming out anymore. But Naga does seem to be having a better KD overall, and is always consistently having more military numbers. But just looking at this, the HP seems to be more durable for the DAI's units. So the army that was here like 30 seconds a minute ago is mostly gone for Naga, and DAI still has a few left. So it does feel like the tide is turning toward the DEI. Hussite wagon mass is pretty large at this point. Now DI needs some, I'm forgetting what they're called, the bomber cannon upgrade, the Hoofnicha, or trebuchets to attack this castle. We got late Tiger Cavalry for Naga though. KD is getting closer, so I think the DEI is currently gaining on KD. We could see it tied at some point here. Military numbers are superior for the DEAI. The DEI is retreating for a moment. Just checking to see how AIs are expanding across the map. So DI has 4 relics, so Naga has just 1. So that pause is able to give Naga some time to get its military numbers back up. We'll see if the DI can push back again. Still no heavy siege from the DEAI, which it really needs. Let's see if the Siege Workshop might start adding in some bomber cannons or Hoofnicha. But I'm not seeing anything coming from the Siege Workshops yet. This castle is just not being hurt. And we're seeing a whole bunch of castles being built in the back of the DI's base. I wonder if it'd be really helpful to build some on the front, right here, to hold the line in case Naga gets a break and is able to charge forward. Just counting the military buildings here. So the DI has 7 archer ranges, 5 stables, 5 castles. Naga has 3 castles, 6 archer ranges, and 6 stables. And yet another siege workshop that's not going to be used. And another. It's kind of confusing to see all these siege workshops being added by the DEAI, but not do anything with them. It might just be the lack of resources. Alright, I'm hearing trebuchets. Yeah, so there's a traction trebuchet here. Alright, so we got some hand cannoneers being added by the DAI, and only 1 Hussite wagon. I wonder if the DI is trying to save up for something. It's also got 0 gold miners. Let's see. I don't think I have the feature to... Okay, so we got... let's see. I don't have the feature, like the pro feature that tells you how much gold is left on the map. I'm trying to see if I can find a gold mine at all. I think all of the gold mines are exhausted on the map right now, so we're down to just the relic gold, which definitely puts the game in the DAI's favor. But the DAI's Naga's doing a better job of continuing to train units. Or at least it was looking like it to me. Maybe they're just doing a better job of massing them up. The DEI actually has a bigger army here. Now the TC for Naga. That'll be its 5th TC. And the DEI has 4 TCs, but another castle. DI with almost 70 military. I was trying to see what the way out had special for traction trebuchets. They're just cheaper, it looks like. Alright, we got a trebuchet from the DEI. Let's see if it can protect it. Also got 2 cap rams coming out. So I'm wondering if like some sort of technology was finally saved up for that was able to unlock these siege weapons from being built. Maybe even siege engineers. Yeah, siege engineers is researched now. Got a couple of rams going toward this castle, another trebuchet. But we got a big army here from Naga. So the DI is slightly winning the engagement here. This selection isn't bringing in new units, but just like of the ones I currently selected at the time, the battle is going in DEI's favor, which means the KD is mostly in the DEI's favor. Let's see, the castle should be destroyed pretty soon here. Alright, 1 castle down for the DEI. Does anyone know if there's a hotkey in Capture Age to only select military units? If so, post in the chat. I want to check the Capture Age hotkey guide at this moment. Looks like this TC will go down here pretty soon. Looks like Naga's trying to build a TC, and that location is not gonna work. But that shows you that the minimum drop site buffer SN does not work. And Naga's main TC is down. So it's looking like a matter of time before DEI is able to completely overwhelm Naga. Just looking at the military numbers, but Naga still has a good size like villager numbers. So we're gonna have to wait for the DEI to be able to finish it out before we go on to the next match on Arena. And there we go, Naga resigns. So definitely a very back and forth game. It was exciting to watch. Perhaps the most like back and forth Arabia game that we've had the whole tournament, from two like equally skilled AIs. Naga was ahead in economy most of the game, but I think the DEI was able to have a what's the best way to word it? A more durable army comp, as well as able to take better engagements with a slightly better micro. I think that's what ended up winning the game. So let's switch back to the game. So the DEI eventually had a better KD than Naga. Naga was actually able to collect more gold over the course of the game. But the DEI just had a much better gold income from relics. I thought I remembered like market trade being part of the statistics screen. Maybe it was in the original game. All right, so I need to take a short break. I'll be back for game 2, so that the DEI winning that game, that means that Naga and the DEI are now tied, and the winner of that game will face off against Bright Spark in a best of 3. So what I'm going to do is, on the break, I'm going to play a few of the Vitalis's. Some of the music that we've been listening to today is stuff that was made by Vitalis Eirik, if I'm pronouncing his name right, one of the composers for the game, especially during the HD days, but also composed a lot of the Civilization themes. He extended some of the music themes. I'm gonna play those while I'm away for just a couple minutes. I'm back. Hope everyone is back and ready for game 2. This will be the deciding game to see which AI gets to play against Bright Spark in the final. Alright, for this game, it's like this is Naga would be playing Vietnamese, while the DEI would play Burmese. All right, let's get the game started. It looks like Naga Scout is bugging out a little bit, but we do have a chicken start for this arena map. And the DEI's start seems to be pretty smooth. Lumber camp for the DEI, and same for Naga. So Naga's adding in a chicken mill for the hares, and DEI's added a mill for the forage bushes. As DI is bringing in the next spore. And Naga's already brought it in a little while ago. He is adding a mining camp for gold. Second lumber camp for Naga, pretty close to the first one. And DEI's got a second lumber camp there. Yeah, it's not every day when you see a match between these two civs. It's kind of funny, the Vietnamese are great like anti-archer civilization, and that's exactly what the Burmese do not go for. So we'll have to see if the Naga has a good strategy against the Burmese. So Naga should be first to the feudal age, one villager ahead. Naga already adding a mining camp for stone. So could be going for a castle at some point soon in Castle Age. I'm thinking that the rattan archers, the pierce armor from them would do decently well against the Rambai, because I think the Rambai have a ranged attack. But I think most of the Rambai attacks should still overwhelm the rattan archers' pierce armor. Alright, market and blacksmith for Naga. And a house. Might as well. And DEI is adding market and blacksmith as expected. Alright, DEI adding loom. Naga's going up to Castle Age already, so should be about 30 seconds ahead of the DEI. But the DEI will be 2 villagers ahead. Yeah, unfortunately, looks like DEI is saving up the wood, so it's not building a mining camp for stone. It might be saving up for TC. Still not building a mining camp, maybe it's saving up for 2 TCs. That's probably the most important thing to save up for, but it's kind of unfortunate. Alright, second TC for Naga. Doesn't have the enough wood for a third TC. Meanwhile, Naga, or the DEI, should be really close to, yep, 2 TCs, they can afford them. What if one of them will be built by these hares, they finally will start gathering them. 1 TC there. Okay, I was expecting to see a second TC from the DEI. I guess the wood was saved on, used on something else like wheelbarrow. Aha! TC on the stone. That'll work out well. So both AIs are going pretty heavy on stone. We might see a castle drop from both. Naga will be there quicker. Neither AI seems to have gone for a monastery yet. So, looks like they're both going just for a castle drop strategy. Naga's added the second TC, DEA added it a while ago, next to the stone. Alright, and there's the castle for Naga. Built defensively next to the starting TC. And DI is less than 100 stone away from the castle. Naga still doesn't have any villagers on gold. And that makes me curious. Because I think rattan archers cost gold and so do monks. Alright, so now as I say that, more villagers are starting to gather gold. Maybe because the monastery is starting to be built. Or the castle was finished. Alright, castle from the DAI. This one's being placed so that I can defend the gate. No monastery yet for the DAI, so Naga will probably get ahead on relics this time. Neither AI seems to be going for the unique unit. At least not yet. Fourth TC for Naga. Monastery for the DEAI. I was trying to figure out if that was a house. I think it was just a house. Alright, will that villager let the scout in? Yes, it will. And then that scout is going to die. But it'll distract some villagers first. Alright, so now we got some rattan archers. So the first relic is coming in for Naga. One monk down, so this scout has definitely got his money's worth, even though it was a starting scout. Yeah, and we have a stable from the DEAI. We got one to run by in training. So Naga is ahead by 7 villagers now due to the 4th TC. Alright, Naga's gonna be the first to Imperial Age. Maybe the DEI will be in like 2 minutes later, something like that. Actually, no. I'm just looking at the resources. I think I'll be coming really soon. Bye, Fox. Or bye, Wolf. These foxes will stick around for quite a while, I think. Naga adding some outposts. So I wonder if that building that was built over here... Okay, there probably was a house. But Naga's starting to spread out beyond the walls. Hopefully that doesn't cost Naga a whole bunch. University being added for, I assume, ballistics, but could be for other things as well. So Naga will be about a minute ahead of the DEI to get to Imperial Age. Siege Workshop being added for Naga. And we got 10 Rattan archers versus 8 skirmishers and a couple of run by. So things are pretty even at this point in the game. We got Thumb Ring also being added for Naga, Long Swordsman for the DEAI. So I wonder if we might see champions with the DEAI. Alright, second castle for the DAI, and also a second castle for Naga. Alright, two-handed swordsman for the DAI and bracer. Meanwhile, Naga is paper money. So going for the eco approach, that seems very much like Naga. And adding chemistry. I don't know if if Naga has found any of the DAI swordsmen, but if so, chemistry for hand cannoneers are probably really effective in this game if the DAI goes really heavily into swordsmen. And so we got 7 barracks already. So Naga's got this pretty aggressive forward 2C here, which apparently will go up. Seems like the DAI is fine with leaving it alone. And third castle for Naga. And then Elite Run By is being researched right now by the DEAI. And Naga's adding some siege. But DEI has champions, and it's starting to really mass them out right now. Meanwhile, Naga's had some elite Rattan archers for a while, and it's going really heavily into those. Bye, TC. I'm also seeing a whole bunch of stables being built, light cap being researched, adding gambesons for the swordsman. The DEI seems to be adding in a whole bunch of different units, almost like it's trying to counter Naga's approach, where Naga's approach seems to be a bit more straightforward. Just going into as many Rattan archers as possible. And assuming that the Burmese won't be able to counter them. And it looks like the attack is about to start. I'm curious, I don't really recognize the Rattan archers firing sound. I wonder if any other unique units have this attack sound, because I don't think the Feudal Age archer has this, the bow firing sound like this. So Naga is kind of caught a whole bunch of the DEI's army off guard. It looks like the DEI's army is charging forward on the other side of the map. And then the Rambai are being caught by the monks. A few of them are converted. The DEI has a bunch of military, but it seems like I can't ever see them on the field. But I think what the issue is probably that the DI is being able to train a whole bunch of units, but just can't get them all out onto the field at once. And so this KD here from Naga is enormous. I bet at this point the best reaction is just doing a whole bunch of onagers, but Naga has onagers of its own to be able to counter that. Imperial skirmishers for Naga. Probably had them a while ago. Alright, now the DEI is going into battle elephants. But I feel like this is too late. It doesn't have enough gold miners to really get into them. And it doesn't have a mining camp built on this gold either for some reason. Maybe it's a bad setting for drop site drop site separation distance. I'm not sure. I think it would have to be set to like 2 or 3 in order for a mining camp to be able to fit here. But it seems pretty clear that Naga's army is going to win this, just due to the military advantage. So if there's assuming there's no twists and turns in this battle going so far, it seems like it was a case of Naga probably had a slightly better boom, plus going for a dedicated army approach, going for its strongest units, which also happen to be ranged units that the Burmese have a hard time countering. While the DI seemed to be more focused on countering those units and not really focused on what it could go for. They're kind of switching between skirmishers, swordsmen, and light cav, and a rumbai, and not focusing on any particular unit. And then when Naga attacked, its ranged units were all gathered together, and the DAI did not have its armies gathered together. And so the Naga's army just picked them off one by one as they try to come and defend. I also feel like in this matchup, the Burmese probably needed to win early before like the Vietnamese can get to their full Imperial Age comp, just due to like blacking that second archer armor. I suppose the battle elephants probably could have been a nice thing for the Burmese to go for, but it would need to go for those in a focused way rather than switching into them like 3 minutes ago like it tried to. So that could just be a case of the DEI not reading the Civ matchup, which is hard to do as an AI scripter. Alright, so I'm going to call the game here. It looks like Naga will indeed be the AI that goes on to face Bright Spark in the final set. Yeah, so Naga had the slightly better boom. Both AIs were like roughly equal in getting military trained, but just Naga had the better army and the better engagement once the attack started.